So there was a Zen master called Dogen, and or Dogen or something, and he said, it's much longer, but I like the first part of it. He says, to study Buddhism is to study the self, and to study, and when I use the word self, it's the sense of being a long-lasting, independent, separate entity, yeah? Based on that you're the doer, the thinker, the haver, the one who's conscious, that sense, yeah, and it's produced. It's a produced sense. So he would say to study Buddhism is to study the self, and to study the self is to forget the self. Yeah. Why is that? Because if you study the self, it will dawn on you, you're not that, and as soon as it's not about you, you're going to lose interest in it. Yeah, seriously. So like if I'm sitting here and there was a meeting in this other room, and there was a girl there that I wanted, I had maybe some ideas about. She was doing a talk, and then I'm here supposedly doing this talk, but I'm really keenly interested in hear what she's saying, because I'm hoping she says, hey, I like that guy Paul in the other room. So I'm really listening. Everyone's looking at me going, hey, you don't seem to be present, at the meeting. And all my attention's there, and then someone would go, well, and I tried, they bring a book and it says how to lose interest in a conversation in another room, and I paged through it. I'd agree with it, but I still had it's like herd of cats, so I'm not reining it in. But suddenly the lady starts talking, and I'm really keen, and she says, I really like that guy Matt, and my name is Paul, what happens? My interest, you never lose interest, you just lose interest in something. Yeah? You don't lose interest. That interest would come right back to where I am. It wouldn't take 3 months of a migration. As soon as I realized it wasn't about me, I'd lose interest in it. That's exactly it, really. That's the whole point. The whole point about studying self is to see you're not. Yeah. It's like, the Enneagram, you ever heard of that? And you go on a 3-day thing, and you learn all the different characters or personality traits, and then there's like 9, I think, and then 2 subdivisions. But at the break, everyone now just has something else to identify with. I'm a 4 with a sexual 6. And so the whole point of learning it all is to realize you're not. Yeah? It describes what we are, just like astrology. It's weird that you're an Aquarius, and then you read astrology thing, and it sort of sounds like the way your little scheme of things. Yeah, and how could they know? You think it's in a paper, but it sounds like it's personally to you. Wow, this is describing me exactly. It's like millions of readers are reading the same thing. Aquarians all thinking, hey, this is just a description of me. The description is of what we're not. Yeah. You can study what you're not. You're experiencing what you're right now, what you're not. You can understand what you're not. But you cannot, you're only relegated to one possibility concerning what you are, which is being it. And I do not believe that is coming to be. It is. You're being right now. And it's always right now. What's the confusion? I was a Catholic kid. We used to have this thing, catechism class. And I remember they would give the 3 attributes of God as omnipresent, all present, all-powerful, all-knowing. And I really wonder, why am I not running into it? If it's ever present, and I seem to be here, why am I missing it? I'm running into people I don't want to see. But here, how is it? How is that? What? Let your mind go. How is that possible? It has to be God that's pulling the wool over God's eye. Nothing else could pull the wool over God's eye. Nothing could fool reality other than reality. I would say that's what we are. We're reality in manifesting as dreaming. And there's evidence constantly. We're all here tonight, but the event will not tattoo you. You'll make the experience of the event. The event will not make you have an experience, in a sense. You'll make the experience. You are dreaming, in a sense. Not as a choice. It's not Paul. Paul is an idea that the dreamt takes itself to be. So this idea of selfing, this all downloaded, that's all that happened. My head just moved over and stuff came in, and all of it was reverse engineering. Yeah, something would come in and there would be a relief, and then it would tell me why the relief didn't seem to be available before. And it's sort of like, the idea of you're in a movie and like someone's standing in the front with a big head and you can't see the thing, and then realizing it's your freaking head. Yeah, that's sort of what it's like. So every time these downloads would occur, and it would just inform me of what I'm not, completely. It never said a damn thing about what is. Not ever. Because there's no point. It's that story. The first video we ever did, we did it here last year. It's a typical, most simple parable of the sheep and the lion. Yeah? Where the lion, mother, and the cub are roaming around, and then the mother gets killed, and there's the cub's orphaned, and it's walking around and running around the savannah, doesn't know what's going on. It sees like a herd of sheep, and it moves towards the sheep. Yeah. Now the sheep know it's a lion, but the lion doesn't seem to know it's a lion. And the sheep realize that, and it gets ingratiated into the herd. And it's chewing cud, which it's not enjoying that much, and they straighten its, they curl its hair, and it's sitting, listening to all these old sheep talk about who's going to be the next sweater. And it's not really feeling that satisfied, but it's going, hey, and it meets a sheep, a woman, or whatever they call them, and it has sheep kids. They look a little strange, they rationalize that away. And it continues to do it, but there's an irritability, restless, discontent, or like they say in Buddhism, dukkha or malaise. There's a dissatisfaction. Yeah? And then one day this old lion comes into the savannah looking for food, and it starts running after the herd, and it sees out of the corner of the eye this young lion, and it thinks it's joining the hunt, but then it realizes it's running with the sheep. So it veers off and it grabs that young lion. The young lion rolls over and goes, please, Mr. Lion, I'm a humble sheep, don't eat me. Now the lion is quite perplexed, so it just gets its head and drags it over to the water hole, sticks it over the pond, and it sees its reflection. Ammo. That's that. It doesn't have to take 3 months of roaring lessons. It roars. Yeah. All the belief it was a sheep, living as a sheep, didn't change the fact that it's a lion. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm a sheep, I'm not a sheep, and then it has to start working towards becoming like a lion. It saw, I'm not a sheep, and that's that. Yeah. Then it gets a sense of a lion. Yeah. This is the whole point of the message. The whole point of the message, because if the sheep hears this message, it's like, I'm a lion, I'm a lion, I'm a lion. That's the message. Some people will resonate with, here it comes, I'm a lion, I'm a lion. It hits the sheep's ear, and it gets turned into, I can become like a lion. Yeah. Now it's a lion, but it's hearing everything with sheep's ears, so it hears the message, you're a lion, and it doesn't matter how many times it hears the message. It's going to be translated into I can become like a lion. That's not the message. Yeah. And it can go to such an absurd length because that identification as a sheep is so stubborn, the sheep may run into other sheep that are unhappy being a sheep. Yeah. And maybe they find a book about the lions and they start reading about how courageous they are. And they want to be like a lion, so they find some pictures of lions and they put a nice frame on it, put it in a room like this, have some candles, and they meet there every week. They talk about what it would be like to be like a lion, and they have roaring lessons and all this stuff. But it can't get over the impediment that they are a lion. Wanting to become like a lion as a lion does not work. It does not work now, and it's not going to work. Because the fact is, you're a lion. You can't get over it, yeah? I don't care how much you believe. So the message is never about what is, it's about what isn't. Because you're sending the message to what is with the hopes that it will see what it's not, all those activities, and in seeing what it's not, it will get a sense of what it is, and it will roar. And it's like when I was young, I had, it's like 12 years old, and I lived in Long Island, New York, and there was a mall there called Roosevelt Field, and I was starting to get the hormones and everything. I had a little longer hair, and I had this outfit. They were red corduroys and a gray long sleeve t-shirt. And I put that on, get on the bus, and go to the Roosevelt Field and just look at my reflection in every store window. And people were looking at me, so I figured, hey, this works, this outfit, this ensemble is working. So I'm walking around, and this went on for months, you know. And then one day, a friend of mine had some compassion over me, and he says, hey, Paul, you know that gray shirt? I go, yeah, I like that shirt. It says, it's pink, brother. And you know those red jeans you think you keep talking about? I said, yeah, they're magenta. And I was going, and as soon as he told me that, I saw it as pink and magenta. I didn't, 3 months later, I didn't go into the closet, is it gray? No, it never not was pink and magenta from that point on. That's sort of what the message was like. It doesn't take long, yeah? It whacks you. That whack, you have to see that the burglar is going to arise and is going to claim to be the one who got the whack, and then you're going to be going to 800 of these talks. You know? And then the word enlightenment and awakening, those words, your mental state will use it to produce the exact opposite of the words. You'll be so irritable and restless and disappointed about not being awake, and you'll be envious and hate the people that seem to be awake. Yeah. And then the worst thing is if you thought you were awake and somehow you did something to lose it. That's a real one. That's a real exquisite suffering. As soon as the head claims it, it neuters it. You gotta see what you're not. You gotta see the first catcher's mitt that goes up in time. You're not going to find a process that will get you before that process. Anything you do will be used to imply the doer. These talks, everything that there's a sense that you're doing it is going to be used to imply the doer of it. Yeah? The doing will not get you out of the doer. Try it. In this room, there's probably hundreds of years of spiritual practice, and you're here. The mental state produces a sense of self. When you were a baby, you didn't have it. We grew into it. When you were a baby, you were farting and shitting in your own pants. You had no idea what was going on, and you had no guilt or anything about it, and other people cleaned it up for you. You'd have total tantrums and then be fine in a second. It was the parents that stretched it out into time. Yeah? What happened? The mental states developed. And once they did, the interest and attention that was living through the 5 or 6 gates, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching, and that sense of life is happening, turned into an interpretation that life's happening to me. Really? Yeah. And suddenly now, all the states, the mental, the thoughts, the memories, the perceptions are used to reinforce, because they are happening. Thoughts are happening, right? Feelings are happening, perceptions are happening. They're being used to imply there's a someone that they're happening to. See, the mental states I am is different than the I am in the spirituality. The I am is self-evident in spirituality, yes? You would read these things and say, the one thing that cannot be denied is you're on, okay? So here comes the mental state. How the hell is it going to evade that freaking incredible, always available possibility of I am? What does it do? The mental state says I was, yeah, through the memories and thoughts. You're thought about as a body, you're pictured as a body in the past, yeah? So I was, and then I will be, therefore I am. And then it takes the place, in a sense, it sits right atop what you're looking for, yeah? It sits right, the I am is that which it's sitting on. And so you're looking for it everywhere, but you don't see it. It's right in front of our nose. Yeah, watch it. Check it out. When the attention goes into memory, you're seen as a body. You can be pictured as a body 5 years ago. You can't be pictured as spirit 5 years ago. How do you see spirit 5 years ago? Exactly as you see it now. You don't, yeah? So the thoughts, the memory pictures you as a body. The thought system thinks of you as a body. The perception sees bodies. All of that's going on all day. That activity, and therefore if what we are starts believing that, it actually gets a sense of being a body. Then the I am now becomes an object or a spiritual goal when it's the I am that's on every step of the way. Yeah. You are what you're looking for. The seeker is the sought. All those cryptic statements aren't cryptic at all. They're like the warning that should be in every spiritual book. That warning that you cannot use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. You cannot use... All we need is warnings. We do not need descriptions of what we are. We need to find out what we are. And how you find out what we are is not through what you're not. You find out what you are by seeing what you're not. And there's no what you're not that can be seen, but the activities that the mental state is using to imply a self, you can see. And you are seeing them. So the freedom is prior to the bondage. From this point of view, nothing ever happened. There's no one to be bound. It's like we always use this little mental trick of how, you can't get out of an imaginary place. Yeah? You can't transcend an imaginary place. The great wisdom of no escape is there's nowhere to escape from. Yeah? I had this thing when I was younger. I did a cathartic event like for 8 days. Like it was contrived and produced. It was pretty cool though. Yeah. And so one of the big cathartic moments was I was sitting there moaning and going off and saying, "I can never get back. I can never get back." And then in hindsight, I realized why is because I never left. I was taking myself, I was believing in an impossibility that I could have left, and therefore from here I can never get back. But it was all absurd. Just switcheroo, and it makes total sense. I can never get back because I never left. That's the point. See it? It doesn't take any time. How much time passed when the young lion saw its reflections and the old lion's reflection? How much time passed for it to be a lion? None. That's the sense of it. If you're onto something, the sense of the solution is timeless. It doesn't take any time. So this word selfing. Selfing to me implies all of that which is being claimed to imply the one, yes? It's an activity. So when people hear it, they get in touch with me, at least in the past, and it would hit them and they'd call me up and say, "Oh, Paul, I've been selfing all day." I said, that's not it. The sense of being the one that's doing the selfing is the product of the selfing. Yeah? And then I'd get other calls. Oh, the selfing's driving me crazy. That's not it. The feeling of being the one who's driven crazy is the product. Yeah? It's the sense of being the doer, that all the doing is being used to imply. The sense of being the thinker. See, and I did a talk in LA, and this guy who knew me for a while said, okay, Paul. And he'd say, now how much is Paul Pauling on a regular day? Is it 50% of the time? Is it 80% of the time? Is it 10% of the time? And I said, you're mistaken. There is no Paul Pauling. There's Pauling that produces the sense of Paul, and he demonstrated it perfectly. Yeah? He believed, because as soon as the Pauling produces a sense of Paul, there's a feeling that you're the Paul that's Pauling. You see it? It's beautiful. This is when you catch yourself in the heist. Because as Ramana says, you are the policeman and you're the burglar. You're doing the both things. You're going to see the burglary and you're going to recognize what you're not. So it goes like this. So he was telling me, he assumed Paul was doing the Pauling. That's the product of the selfing. The Pauling is what produces the sense of Paul. Once it's produced, this goes like this. It's produced here, and then it goes, I'm the one who's doing the Pauling. You see, Ramana says it this way, Ramana Maharshi. There's a presupposing of a non-existent thing, this, yes, that wants to get salvation for the non-existent thing. He uses the word presupposing. It's beautiful, because when the supposing is entertained, it presupposes you before the whole activity. So this is what happens. There's doing, the mental state claims it. When it claims the doing, it leapfrogs over the doing and it puts itself as the doer. But it's a doing. Selfing is a doing claiming the doing. Selfing is an activity that's claiming the feelings. Selfing is an activity that's claiming the thoughts. So the thoughts, you hear thoughts, and in that activity, hearing the thought, the mental state says, all right, it claims it and it says, I'm using this thought to imply the thinker. Yeah? And now the thinker gets hooked to every freaking thought that ever goes by. It's like here with this bottle. You gotta see it. If you don't see it, you're gonna be looking from it. Seriously. Yeah? And you'll be looking for it as a goal for that which you're not. So here's a bottle. Everyone sees it. Yeah? I'm gonna give it a different meaning. My bottle. Yeah? So if 8,000 bottles came by all day, and each one would be going, implying I'm the one who has the bottle. Yeah? Mind, imagination could do what? Could easily picture a body. Yeah? Like this. All day thoughts, my thoughts, all feelings. Feeling, I'm having these feelings. Right? Actions are there, that has the most crazy glue, actions. So I'm the doer. This is the bondage of self. It's an activity. If you're hoping that's going to stop, you're going to be hoping a long time. It's like the blood circulation. This is what the mental state does. And I'm telling you, you're not going to make it your friend or your domestic pet. It has more of like a parasitical nature. It wants to have you, in a sense. It wants the possibility to express you. So you would see a crazy thought, but when it's held as yours, you're apt to follow it, yes? A feeling is a feeling, but it's my feeling could ruin my whole vacation. The power doesn't come from the feeling or the thought, it comes from us. And how we're entertaining the thought. Yeah? Thoughts are thoughts. How could something ruin your day and not ruin mine if a thought was real? I could be sitting right next to you and you're flipping out. That's not going to cause me to flip out. But if I had the same thought you're having and was held as mine, it would have the ability probably to flip me out. Why not see the exact nature of what's happening here? That's the one quality we have, is seeing or awareness. Let it lead the way, yeah. Instead of being dimmed down in a sense, or having a basket put over it by calling it your awareness, yeah. Let the awareness will be the light that you follow unto yourself. As Buddha said, be a light unto yourself. That's it. And in seeing what you're not, you will finally get a sense of what you are. And maybe a lot of things are like looking for what can't be found will be put to a stop with no effort. You'll just be expressing the effects of a shift, yeah. You won't be trying not to do anything, you'll just lose interest in it all. That's why we've never changed the message. Yeah. Because if this isn't seen, you're going to be looking from its effects. Yeah. That's why I think if you read Ramana's stuff, this is not his, but people who followed him on most of the books, this is one of the main themes in many of them, and it would be phrased as the problem or the greatest mystery. Somehow it would give a sense of importance to it, and it's that presupposing a non-existent thing. And if that's not seen, then all your spiritual practices themselves will reinforce the non-existent thing. How can they destroy it? Now, to me, this is like a spiritual shoe store, yeah. And you may have an idea of what kind of spiritual shoes you need, like mountain boots for the Tibetan trip or stuff like that. I'm not going to listen to you. I'm just going to bring some out here. And if the shoe fits, you wear it. To me, it fit. When I heard that statement, you can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. It was describing exactly what I'd been doing, seemingly. And then we have something in recovery called self can't get out of self. That just explained my whole life since I was 6 years old. I've been trying to get out of self as a self. That's why nothing ever succeeded. You can't get out of an imaginary thing. The beauty is presupposing a non-existent thing and then wanting to get salvation for the non-existent thing. In this case, the salvation from it is inherently so. You don't have to get salvation from a non-existent thing. It's the condition. It's non-existing. You know what I mean? Your goal is already the condition, yeah? You don't have to go through anything to vanquish the non-existent thing. It's non-existing. So your salvation is inherently available at all times because it's not produced, yeah? And you don't go back and see if the non-existent thing has come to life because it's non-existing. You see the value of it? Then you get weaned off of this idea of time. And look at spirituality. It's got the greatest business plan. It will have its clientele thinking it may take lifetimes for them to get the delivery. I mean, can you imagine if you owned a furniture store and someone ordered and bought a couch and then it didn't get there for like 30 years? And they kept calling, they said, it may take lifetimes for the couch to be delivered. I mean, how would you put up with that? See, the thing is, the message is being heard. It's being captured and neutered and turned into something that which you are becomes a goal to that which you're not. Yeah? And I'm telling you, that which you're not does not want to arrive at the goal because the goal would be its complete absence. So it's going to be dragging its feet quite a lot. Because, like Ramana said this thing about, all right, the greatest mystery is reality wanting to attain reality. And the thing is, if it comes to the conclusion, the only thing that's stopping me from attaining reality is this. So basically the logic is, this has to be destroyed for me to attain reality. I don't see too many people rushing up to the finish line, yeah? Because they want to be there to get it. I want to have the experience of the freedom that is always available at all times, because what you are is inherently absent. There's not even anything to move off the chair. No, it's available now. That's why repetition for me, that's why we do all the YouTubes. You know, hundreds of them. Because I know it's sort of like spiritual sperm, you know. If you release enough sperm, it's going to get past the defenses of the defenses of the mental state are incredible, really. They're like the Death Star in Star Wars. They're shooting down most of the fighter planes. But all they need is one to get through. And that one reaches the mother egg, so to speak. And then the mind conceives of an idea. This is what happened with me in recovery. There was a statement in recovery in the book, page 64 of our text, and it says, being convinced, which means to believe with certainty. Yeah? Being convinced is a present tense state. It wasn't I was convinced or I'm going to be convinced. Being convinced right now that self, manifested in various ways, is what has defeated us. Yeah, it's beautiful. And I had been reading this chapter for 9 years. But finally something happened where I saw self as a foreign installment, or as a failed GPS, or parasitical fucking mental process, whatever. Just as long as you can picture it as other, that's the point. Because if it is the act of being identified as what you're not, if you could picture that as other, that's the possibility. And what happened is I pictured as other, and then a possibility arose that hadn't been seemingly available for years, which is I can be free from it. That's all that was needed. And then what the reverse engineering of that one was, most of my life I've been trying to be free as it, or as Ramana would say, as the non-existent thing. It explained everything in like not any time. Boom. And it's never changed. So just see what you're not. Yeah, it's almost like the only glimpse you can have is an intimation of what you are. By seeing what you're not, you'll intimate what you are. Because you'd have to be something else to see what you are. And that's not possible. Yeah. But it's almost like a bumper shot in pool. You hit it this way and it hits the 8 ball. Boom, boom. Yeah? If you try to hit direct, it doesn't go. But if you and then the logic is revealed, and the logic is seamless. You see, it isn't about focus and concentration, it's about dispersed, relaxed awareness, like they say in Dzogchen. Yeah? Because your own interest is the obscuring factor. And there's no way you can get around that. Like it says in physics now, the observed is distorted by the observation. That's what's happening all day. Yeah. The Course in Miracles would say, hey, you and I are the dreaming of the dreaming. It doesn't say that, it says dream, but I don't like, it sounds like a thing then, you know? So you and I are the dreaming of the dreaming. We forget that we're dreaming. Now that's what interested me. How the hell's that happening? Yeah. So in a sense, you could never forget that you're dreaming as the dreaming, but you can seem to forget, which means it will appear to the dreaming that it's forgotten it's dreaming. How does that get maintained is through the identification with the dreamt. The animating principle takes itself to be that which it's animating. By constant insinuation, implying, reinforcement, and you talk about repetition, there's no greater repetition than selfing. It's claiming everything that's happening to imply or insinuate it's happening to you. And you're not going to get out of what's happening, but the fact is, you are what's happening. But what will occur is, you'll be absorbed in what's not happening. And you'll give life to next week. You'll give life to 8 years ago. You will breathe the power to affect from causeless things, as the Course would say. Causeless effects are all dreaming. There is no cause for the effects. Next week isn't causing any effect now. What's happening, entertaining next week, can cause an effect. People come here, no one's bummed out today based on today. No one's bummed out right now based on right now. It's based on an hour ago or 8 hours ahead or a month ago or 3 years ahead. We're basically breathing life into what's not happening. Because in what's not happening, you seem to be happening. Yeah? All the memories of you, all the thoughts about you, all the feelings that have been used to imply you. It's a pretty incredible advertising campaign. And the only way you can get to it is not by talking to the action figure, but by talking to that which is there, which is mind, yeah? When mind hears the message, it goes somewhere. When you hear the message, it gets more and more convoluted. And I've seen people fuck themselves up completely with this message, yeah? I remember I was living in Australia when I first started hearing about non-duality. My girlfriend went out and said, Paul, can you clean the dishes tonight? She got home, the dishes were still in the sink, nothing happened to them. And she says, why didn't you clean the dishes? Well, there is no Paul to clean the dishes. And she said, fuck you, clean the dishes. Now, thank God I didn't stay in that immaturity. I kept entertaining nothing, because that's the whole point. Nothing. You're not going to get a damn thing out of this. It's like, what's so beautiful, it's like a desert tortoise when the coyote in the desert's looking to get some food. It just cannot get to the meat. It loses interest and takes off. That's what's going to happen. Non-duality is not going to budge, because it's a fact, basically. And the mental state is going to get bored with it. And that's when it really starts to shine. That's when its true value comes. Because I've seen people, I don't believe you can use non-duality like a skillful means. You've taken something that isn't so to be real, like a situation, and then you want to apply non-duality to make it seem unreal to you. It doesn't work. This isn't a skillful means. It isn't. Like if your house is on fire, you need a pail of water. You don't need to talk about there is no house and there is no fire. You need a pail of water. So that's really it. I don't know. Any questions?
Yeah, I've got one.
Yeah.
You said there was freedom before bondage.
Yes.
I think you said there was, yeah, so I thought this was starting at 7 because I didn't look at my information on my phone that my friend sent me. So walked up that hill a bit too quick for my own good at my age. I'm in recovery as well. It took me a long time to realise it was the first drink that did the damage. I'd say at least 6 months. And it's a bit similar with this kind of stuff. I need to be told the same thing 60,000 times before the light bulb comes on. Pointing out, my true nature, whatever that. All I'm interested in is honesty and the truth. I know I'm conditioned, I know I've got all this baggage from where I come from in Ireland and growing up in Liverpool and living down here. And then some of it's really interesting, some of it's good, and I think I kind of swing between both of them. Sometimes I feel I'm in my story, and sometimes I'm in the freedom. And it's confusing, but I suppose it's just the way it is. Maybe it'll change in the future, I don't know, but I suppose maybe my mind wants to be in the freedom all the time and not be caught up in the prison.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And I don't know.
Who doesn't, really? That's the dilemma. It's like everyone wants to be at a good party, but when you get there, it sucks. So, how are you going to work that out? Yeah, that's the dilemma, really.
Yeah, but sometimes this feels hunky-dory, like a walk in the park. It seems totally one, everything's, there's no problem with it.
Yeah.
And then I get dragged back into the soap opera of my life if someone hurts my kids, or, you know, someone puts the wrong record on the record player, or, you know, anything can pull me back into the story.
See, the thing is, your attention gets pulled back, not yours, the attention. And then that's claimed to imply it was you that got pulled back. See, that's the heist, that's it right there. That's the daily heist, you see?
Yeah.
The attention goes somewhere, you feel a certain way, you're bummed out or you're high, and then uses it to imply that you're the one that was bummed out and high. That's the bondage of self. That idea of you came after the events, but now it precedes in this little mental fabrication, it precedes all the events. You think you actually, that's what the root of self-centeredness is that when you're seeing life from self-centeredness, you see everything on how it pertains to you. That's it. That's the myopic view. And of course you want to get relief, yeah? So you'll do almost anything to get relief. But it doesn't work because addiction is the mental states trying to get out of the first addiction. The mental state is shooting up selfing. It's an addict. It wants to have a mobile pond so Narcissus can keep getting reflection all day. So of course, you get seemingly contractions and expansions happen, yes? Then the mental process claims them after the fact and says you're the one that contracted and you're the one that expand, and then now you want more expansion instead of contraction. So now you have a desire for one and not for the other, and now you're stepped on the flypaper, so you're trying to manage and control, and you're getting opposite results. But like we say in recovery, it says you got to quit playing God. Yeah. So to me, the head's playing God. When you wake up in the morning, it says what the day's going to be like. That's playing God. When it tells you what you're like and what they're like and what's going to be happening 5 years from now, it's just playing God, yeah? But this is the dilemma. It says, hey, you got to quit playing God. But what happens if that which is playing God claims to hear the message? You got to quit playing God. So that which is playing God tries to quit playing God. That's playing God ad infinitum. This is it. This is the bind. That's exactly it. You expressed it perfectly. The movements of life have now been claimed to imply you are the one who's moving, and there's a like and dislike. There's desire and aversion. All of that happens. See, it's an imaginary birth all day. And we're believing, in a sense, from what I've watched a lot of people, that it's something that happened and now I have to get out of it. It's happening. The heist isn't something, let's talk about the heist. You're in the heist right now. The burglar and the police, you're playing both right now. You're not going to come out of the water of life and start observing it. You can't escape the wetness, yeah? So, to me, understanding what you're not, which is the activities of selfing, if you understand the activities of selfing, there's a space available there, because you are that which precedes everything. That's the thing, that's the heist of the mental state. It's neutered for the ace in your deck, which is you are that which precedes everything, and now it's made something that comes after to be the before. And therefore the before now becomes an after, like a goal to you, as the phony before. It's a switcheroo, it happens in time. That's which comes after implies it's before. That's it, that's the robbery.
Where's the space? Where's the space you just mentioned?
Now, here. There are no things to bump into. Your mind isn't in the head. The mind isn't. You know, if you know, you don't stop at the cheekbone. You know, this is just, it's dreaming. And we have an incredible reprieve every day. You're going to go to bed tonight, hopefully. And all your transgressions will be annulled. You have to, you know, when you go into deep sleep, you have to go through like the 30 obstacles of Hercules. No, you just fall in and it's just like that which can be forgotten is forgotten by that which can never be forgotten. Therefore, it doesn't need to be remembered. What you are does not need to be remembered. It's impossible to forget. There's not one, this idea, this robbery, this idea that we can be out of a moment makes being in the moment like a Herculean journey. But the fact is, you've never been out of any moment. So if someone says, man, you look like you're doing it very effortlessly. Yes, because I've realized it's impossible to be out of the moment. So now, like it or not, you don't get gypped. All day you're here. Night and sleeping you're here. There's no, you never take, you can't jettison out of a non-existent place.
You just reminded me of something. In my drinking, I used to try and climb out of this. And I knew the only way was either suicide or, and I used to physically try and climb out of this because I thought, this is just doing my head in, you know, and I was, you know, you get that more than most.
Yes. See, the thing is, that's the act of being identified. If the act of being identified is place, everything's going to go. You'll kill this. Yeah. But if you see you're not that, it doesn't have to be so freaking radical. It just drops. You lose interest in a lot of the stuff. Yeah. I mean, when I was young and I entered quote unquote spirituality, the reason why I did is I never wanted to be like this. I swear to God. I swear to God. I have absolutely no interest. I feel like I'm misleading people now. They actually think I mean this is going to get you somewhere. I don't mean that. I mean this is just like being ordinary. And it's so magical if you haven't been most of your life. maybe you will. Yeah, it's just mind-boggling. It really is. I really feel like I'm cheating you because you're not, this isn't going to get it for you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. It isn't. I wish I had something to give you. But see, if all the somethings you're ever going to get are going to turn into nothing anyway, why not just stay at nothing? Yeah? Just see what you're not. How hard is that? People want to have an experience of what they are. That's impossible. So it's going to go for thousands of years. But you're experiencing what you're not all day. That's the basis of experience here, is what you're not. I swear to God. You have never experienced a damn thing as what you are. You're experiencing things as what you're not. That's the only way you can have an experience.
Isn't that a Frankie Valli song, Swear to God? Isn't that a Frankie Valli song, Swear to God?
What happened?
Frankie Valli's song, Swear to God, sorry.
Oh. Yeah. But see, the thing is, let's say someone had diabetes and they woke up. Would they still take insulin? Of course, yeah. This is what happens though in AA a lot. People don't want to do shit. Yeah? So they want to get a free pass. So then they'll hear non-duality. It's like, well, there's no self. So I don't need to do the steps. Just that. And then you see them drunk. You know? I mean, render unto Caesar what Caesar's. This has its own little thing going on. And you better fucking pay attention to it or it's going to produce effects here. It is. And you're not going to, this isn't like a get out of jail free card. I mean, you're going to be completely on. You're going to feel tons of shit that your head doesn't want to feel. You are. But the beautiful thing is, finally, you realize the unmovability of what you are. You do not come and go. You're not you're not like an accordion that circumstances can play. It's all baloney. The mental state believes, oh, I went there, I lost it, I'm connected. It's all made up. It's like writing in mist, you know what I mean? It's just, and no one else is interested in it other than you, really. I swear to God. I mean, no one, if the thoughts that you're holding so dearly as yours, if you saw them as Stanley's, you would change the channel if you could, like in a second. But because they are presenting it, they're about you, you've been listening to them religiously for 40 years. It's not the thoughts. The movie sucks, it's the audience. It does. It doesn't take, all you need is this tiniest example and you see the whole thing. It just replicates, duplicates, and appears in different degrees. That's it. It's the same. Yeah. You don't have to study for 30 years. You get a flavor of what you're not, and hopefully the interest that's been wedded to that dead preoccupation gets lifted, and now the interest and attention rests in where it comes from, which is everywhere. Yeah? And to me, presence is undirected interest and attention. That's all it is. It's not enslaved to the mental preoccupation trying to get a reflection of its fucking image all day. It's rest, and almost that to me is the presence. You sense an onness because your interest and attention, it's not being sent around a corner for another fucking, fool's gold errand. It's here because there's no possibility it can be anywhere else. And now the same interest and attention that is used to enslave you is enriching your day. Exact same. Yeah. The same interest and attention that is being used or directed to enslave you to what's not happening also has the possibility of producing an ease and comfort just like that now. It matters, it's what's directing it. If the mental state is directing your interest and attention, you're going to get its effects. If you have faith in the mental state, you're going to produce a lot of anxiety. Yeah? A lot of anxiety out of what's not happening. That same faith or energy, if put in a different direction, produces an ease and comfort in your skin and in the situations you're in. Exact same energy. Exact same. The same thing here, You can be looking for what you are from what you're not, or you can be seeing what you're not from what you are. Exact same. One person would read it one way, another person sees it the other way. It's the exact same. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Faith is a force of mind. I'm not talking about a faith. A force of mind that manifests by the vehicle it's put in. You know damn well, faith in the thought system produces tons of fucking anxiety and exquisite suffering. That same faith, if distributed or directed by something else, like in the Course it would call it the Holy Spirit, in AA it's the higher power, yeah? But when that's directed by, and it's all us anyway, yeah? But when it's directed by something other than the mental state, the same energy, the same weight of faith will produce an ease and comfort. And you will know the word serenity and undetenedness, and that is the exact same. It's just which way it's being directed, yeah? I think you've had enough of the direction of the mental state. And the point is, that system locks you in through identification. You can't entertain being free from it, but you're entertaining trying to be free as it all day. That's the dilemma, yeah? It's taking that possibility of freedom, but it's making it impossible because you're trying to be free as that which you'd like to be free from, basically. And it's like it's like a glitch in front on every album, right before the first song starts. You don't see it, but that glitch follows every song. Yeah? It's like a shadow. That's why these people put so much importance in it. That's why Huang Po, a great Zen master, said, hey, whatever can be perceived cannot be perceiving. Whatever can be perceived cannot be that which is perceiving. What happens? How could that mistake occur? Well, the perceiving is claimed by the mental state to imply the perceiver. That's it. Now all you're perceiving is used to distort what's being perceived, to imply and be used to reinforce the idea of being the perceiver. That's what happens. And we're in the midst of the robbery right now. Seriously. But you're before it. That's the beauty. You know, what we are is before, and nothing is before us. When you go back to where you are, that which is hearing cannot be heard, man. That which is seeing cannot be seen. That which is feeling cannot be felt. That which is tasting cannot be tasted. You're not going to know it or experience it or understand it. You can only be it. And in fact, we're being it right now. What we are is way before thought. And that's the space. That's where, in what we call in recovery the pause, now your life starts at the pause, not after thought. After thought, you're fucked. Before thought, you were never fucked. But after thought, you're fucked for sure.
Is that why it says awareness is the gateway through to a higher power?
There's no gateway. There's no gateway anywhere. It's always available at all times. There's no gate, there's no door.
Sorry, I just shot myself in the foot, sorry.
Because the door would imply that it can be closed. The gate would imply that there may be a toll. Yeah? There isn't. That's why they say the gateless gate. You know? It's there before you knock, so to speak. What do you believe all those sayings imply? They imply an immediacy that we can't get to through time. We can't use time to arrive at what already is. The only way we can create or make a false distance through time of what we already are, what we always are. But you're not going to arrive at the timelessness through time. Look at today, look at us now. Consciousnesses are happening, whatever you want to call it. There's awareness, or you're on, right? Seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching. Now, is there any volition to that? Can you imagine if seeing was an act, a doing? You'd be exhausted. Can you imagine that if you were seeing all day, like if you were running all day, you'd be fucking completely out. You'd be totally exhausted. If you take it as something you're doing, you'd be freaking off. You'd be like sweating profusely, seeing. But no, that is all presented through being. There's no thought or effort involved in it. Yeah. Why would you believe it's going to be through thought and effort you're going to arrive at, which shows no thought or effort? You just don't see it, you know. See what you're not, study what you're not, understand what you're not, and there'll be a sense of what you are. Instead of trying to see what you are, study what you are, know what you are, experience what you are, then all you're going to get is what you're not out of that.
What's the relationship between alcoholism and selfing? Is it just an extreme form of selfing, pathological form?
Yeah, that's like a virulent strain, yes. But it's easy to recognize. The selfing is much more subtle. Much more subtle. If you want to look at it as addiction and stuff, to me, and we'll use time, the original addiction is the mental state's addiction to being a self. And therefore, it presents conditions that you want relief from, but as that, and therefore it never works because you're trying to get relief for that which you'd like to get relief from. That's the dilemma. So when I used to do coke, I never hit a point where it's satiated and I say, thank you, Sri Coke, and gave all my Coke to everyone else and decided to, I'm done, everything's good, the tracks will go soon and I'm cool. No, the more you did, the more you wanted, the emptier you felt. It's the same old, because it's a misdiagnosis. You think the problem is them or this or that. It's that sense of being you. That's fabricated and made up. This is what happens at these talks. People want to get it, but they want to be there to get it. Which is, there's no getting this message. That would be way too late. You are it. To me, non-duality is a fact. Either, you're in agreement with it or not, but it doesn't change that it's a fact. It's a fact. There is not two. Non-duality does not say anything affirmative, it just says not to, because that is the correct way. Not to say the one, no, not two. That's the basis of negation, and it's seamless. If the act of being identified is the dilemma or the activity, then that works. If it wasn't, then affirmation will work. You would talk about the incredible, beautiful, 800 splendid nirvana, and that would motivate you to start going there. Yeah, that would be correct. But in this case, you are that which you're looking for, so it doesn't work. See, the strategy to go out and find something works with that which can be found. It cannot work for you. You can't find you. You've never been lost. You're like so available. It's like, it's trippy. If something is always happening, it can seem like it doesn't happen. Its constancy is the greatest stealth shield. It's always available, so it really seems like it's not available at all. Yeah? But that's not on it. It's on it masquerading as us, basically. No illusion could fool reality unless reality is in cahoots in it. You're going to tell me there's an illusion that's sufficiently illusory to convince to actually pull the wool over reality's eyes? No freaking way. Reality is in cahoots with it. This is the ride. This is like an amusement park. We pay for this admission, and now we're bitching we want to get off the ride, but as the ride. See, you can't get in the seat that's in the roller coaster can't get off the roller coaster. We're trying to get off the ride as the ride. This isn't on a ride, this is the ride. Yeah? So the solution is, the great wisdom of no escape is there's no need to escape from an imaginary place. Then you look like you're completely in the moment without any effort or thought, because you realize you can't be out of a moment. Not that you found a way or a method to stay in the moment, you realize you cannot be out of a moment. It looks very similar, but there's not much sweat, and there's no anxiety that you can fuck it up. See, this is the dilemma. If you believe you achieve something, you believe that you can unachieve it. You don't want to play. You don't want to make what you are an object to what you're not. And that's why the message is, that's why I do this really. Because it's like I have that thing, if I saw a good movie, I'd tell you about it. And I heard this. It was like an unspoken yes. I just heard it. And I was like, I felt like it was knowing before knowing, It's just, and then over time, this is an observation. So over time, it became the last answer, which is an incredible answer because it negates all need for any other answers. Yeah, it's unbelievable. And there's never been another answer yet. Yeah. There's no need, it doesn't look for a turbocharged answer or extreme radical answer. It's just, and then, it's just, it's not like you think at all. It doesn't get, you can't get close to it. It's not spectacular, it's not terrible, it's just what is, you know? But it has a brilliance in empty, and it can't be made into anything. And like I like to use the term traveling lighter, because the benefit will come to the action figure. This body does not want to be the center of the universe. It doesn't want to be an object that's thought about all fucking day. It doesn't. You know, it doesn't want to go on a meditation retreat and sit 14 hours on its ass. It doesn't. It doesn't really, not that interested in going to Tibet in a cold cave with like potato soup. It isn't. It has its own little agenda, and there's nothing right or wrong with it. It has its predilections. And the mental state is just a motherfucking mental hen sitting on it all day. And, you know, flagellating it or whipping it into some other new thing to do and more, get better and better and better. It's like slavery, really, you know. And so for me, it dawned on me, I'm not this, and the Urban Renewal Project stopped. You know, this is it. I fuck up, I make amends, you know. I'm not loving gazed or blissed out, no. You know, Paul is, you know, just, I wouldn't recommend even seeing Paul a lot of times. A very strange character. I mean, I shot tons of cocaine. It turned, you know, it has a little flavor of paranoia underneath there. You know, it's weird. I had trouble with love and intimacy and all that stuff. None of that, I'm not like, it's not about becoming the greatest Paul there is. It's just seeing enough Paul, and Paul gets the greatest break from that. Because what floods in is acceptance, which is mind-boggling. Because you'll know that you've never lived under it when you finally get it. You realize you've been whipped this whole life. You know, you've been driven to get to a better moment or a bigger moment. And it's really lovely when that gets turned off, you know. An acceptance of what you're not and what you are. And if you know, and then you get in this world, you start to really have the experience of enough, what the word means for you. You know, enough. It's a really lovely state. You know, you just have enough, and then there's then the interest and attention is can just rest in itself in a sense, yeah. But if I thought about this, I would never come to London. Really. If I thought about almost anything, I would never have done anything. The thoughts come, but they don't precede that which is, yeah. And I have a seat assignment, and I try to do the best I can, but this thing's completely reluctant about it. It's not like, oh, let's go give a talk in London. No. I'd rather not. I don't want to fly 10 hours on a plane and stuff like that. Yeah. So. If you really want to have, you know, if you want to have experiences, go to Peru, you know, take some ayahuasca. Paint your face, you know, write blogs. You'll have much more followers than this. You know? What are you going to talk about? Nothing? Okay. People aren't interested in that. The head is not interested at all. You know? So, yeah, please ask a couple of questions. If you can.
I think you answered it a minute ago when you said about having acceptance. Because I'm in 12-step culture as well, and last week I hit a real rock around writing the nightly review and looking at where I'd been selfish, dishonest, all of that, and then every day for me I was thinking, oh, it's a fail, I failed every day. And but in that also learning about non duality, I knew that wasn't me, but it boggles my mind because I had to come out the other side of it and accept that this is just what happens, this is going to happen every day, and to have some acceptance around it. So maybe you've answered that already, but...
It won't happen every day.
And,
No.
and where it says somewhere in the book about self can't get out of self, but only without his aid, so then the higher power. So I'm writing down this every day. I've been selfish, I've been dishonest, I've been afraid. What have I've kept something, you know. All
But
of it.
remember, it wasn't you. You
Yeah.
just say selfishness and stuff like that. See, the way I see it, do you mind if I do go into this? It's pertinent to everybody. But in recovery, this is why I'm not a circus speaker in AA, but in recovery, they present, well, this is how I saw it. It's very important, that statement. Being convinced that self manifested in various ways and what has defeated us. If you're convinced of that, we will now look at its, meaning self's, common manifestations, and the next paragraph is resentment. So basically, the inventory, the 4th and the 10th, is to see the expressions of self in one's life, not yours. See, the language is the trick. The language is the hypnotist's wand. Yeah? So when you say, these are my resentments, there's a claiming of the resentments to imply you're the one who had them, and then guilt and all this shit arises, yeah? But there's, in a sense, it would be better to say resentments had you, in a sense. So the resentments are claimed to imply there was the you who had the resentment. Yes? Watch it, it's very clear. So being convinced that self manifested in various ways is what has defeated us, okay? So the inventory, so you can see the act of being identified, because let's say if Stanley's expressions came through you, and every expression of Stanley that was coming through you, you called them yours, you would be in the act of being identified as Stanley. Yes? Wouldn't you? Yeah. So Stanley's manifestations are in supposedly your life, and so they came through this possibility and entered your life, and your reaction to it would be, these are my resentments, my harms, my acting out, my fear. You're in the act, not you, but there's the act of being identified as Stanley. That's the bondage of self. So you do an inventory to see how self defeated you, not how you defeated you. How self, a foreign installment, a parasitical movement, try to picture it as any way you want, but to picture it as other than you, and you'll go through resentment. A resentment and my resentment is totally different. Fear, my fear, totally different. I have an immunity to your fear. The same fear, if I held it as mine, could ruin my freaking day. You see? See it. See the power that's being wielded. You are... You know when you were a kid, you can imagine stuff? Yeah, beautiful things, like you'd imagine clouds and riding in the clouds. The mental state has claimed that imagination and is using it to fucking make nightmares through time. See it. See the thievery. See it. You have never had a resentment. There's been resentments. We're not saying there isn't. See? See, this is what people think. Well, you're denying resentment. No, you're denying the one who had the resentment. The resentments are happening, but there's no one who had the resentment. That's where the freedom lies. Yeah. And it's not being, humbly speaking, from here, as a member, I think it's very misleading how it's presented, especially that 4th step inventory, because it sure sounds like you're looking at your shit. And you know what? That binds you to the shit, really. So, yes?
Isn't it that you have to actually claim your resentment to have power to let them go and change it?
No. You just have to see them. In the beginning, maybe you need to claim them because you've been trying to avoid them by
Yes,
denying them.
especially at the beginning.
Non-duality can't be used as a mental denial, but there is denial, a clear denial. That's what happens, yeah.
So would you suggest in the beginning actually claim it, then later on see it as it is, which is not yours.
Well, read the book. It's saying it very clearly. You're looking at manifestations of self, and he describes self and us as different. Why not lean on the us side instead of the self side? And judge the tree by its fruits. If you get relief, and the relief stabilizes and turns into a traveling lighter, then you're on to something. See, it's like if you had a rash and you believed it was eczema. So you went to the store, bought tons of eczema ointment, and you put it on, and there was no relief occurring. So of course you think, I'll just put more on. And you buy more and more on. And there's a stubbornness to accept the fact you're not diagnosing it correctly, yeah? So what happens, the thing is, I don't know what's causing it. So you get some different ointments, and you try them, and then one seems to produce relief. Read the ointment tin. It's for eczema. Now you know you had eczema. Buy the relief. You'll know the problem from the solution. Stop trying to know the solution from the problem. Know the problem from the solution. It's like here in London today, we were at a couple of cafes and nobody was talking about the effects of gravity. Nobody. Yeah, they were talking about that steep hill they had to climb or the staircase. Yeah, totally misidentifying the root of the problem in a sense. It's gravity. You know? And so, that hill or that, I got to stay away from that hill. It's just totally mistaking it completely. All right? And then there's people who become professors of gravity and they go on tours, they write huge books. But all you need to know everything you need to know about gravity, is go into an anti-gravity chamber. You will know it by its absence. Once you get relieved from the effects of gravity, you will stop blaming the fucking hill. Stop blaming for yourself for something you never freaking did. And the relief will verify it. You will get relief that will verify that you're onto something. This isn't hope. This isn't wishful thinking, and it's not freaking a future goal. It's verifiable relief. Now, and the beauty of it, it isn't produced. Yeah, it's not produced. You don't do it. You don't do acceptance. You express acceptance. AA to me, you don't change, you get changed. You put yourself you submit yourself to the program, and the program will change you. It will direct you, it will change you. Not to the point where you start changing you and directing you, because you realize you're not managerial quality. And so this is a new way for information to get downloaded and to produce an effect, and it works. Yeah, 30 years, so. But I'm seeing, if you don't see the exact nature of the wrong, you'll be in cahoots with the wrong. And it's identification as, it's not obsession with self. Obsession with self is what the head does to reinforce the identification. That which isn't so, to seem to be so, is a lot of work involved. That which cannot emit light, yeah, for it to seem to emit light is a lot of work. The mental state is constantly going into what's not happening and remembering you as a body then and worrying about you in the future as a body to picture you as one now. Because there is no body. It has to be pictured by what we are to make it seem to be so. And it's a lot of freaking work. It has, and because it never builds anything, it has to constantly reinforce the magic trick. It's a lot of freaking work, hugely. We joke about it a lot, a psychiatrist, and my specialty would be what's not happening. So I would have, I'd only work for one day, my career. I'd have 60 people booked. They wouldn't know it. They thought they were going to get an hour session. They'd come in, Mr. Smith, and he'd start bitching about what's not happening. I said, that's not happening. See you next week. Huh? What? Yes. Why would I want to apply a solution to what's not happening? That's the bigger problem. You know how much power is being misdirected by us walking around? Unbelievable. Incredible. Let it go into better hands. In the Course, it's Holy Spirit. In AA, it's higher power. They're representing what we are. But the way we are now, we have to see ourselves as something other. Yeah? Because we're so stubbornly identified, we can't imagine that we're God. So we have to make up an extension of God, which is us. Yeah? And then by believing in that, something comes to pass, because we can't go directly, because we're identified as a thing who's done a lot of sins and a lot of transgressions. And everyone in this room has been convicted a long time ago. There's certain things you believe you did that are unforgivable, or something you omitted. We're all in that penitentiary. Yeah. This brings you into the court of light. You just see, like the whole Course in Miracles, the whole basis of it is get to the point of atonement, which is nothing ever happened to be even forgiven. Yeah? That's the freedom. The freedom is prior to bondage. The freedom is not of time. And therefore it's always available in time, at all times. To me, the greatest talks are just warnings, really. Just attempting to warn each other about these common pitfalls that these great masters have revealed. And if you hear it and the shoe fits, wear it. And I'm telling you, there'll be a lot of information downloaded about it. Yeah. And there'll be a seeing, really. You'll see the activity of what you're not. Yeah. And what happens then? There's a possibility of freedom. Yeah. That's how it's worked with me. So I don't believe there's any point to go anywhere else unless this is clear. Or it'll be like a shadow that follows you. Really, the heist is so fast, it cannot be beat by any process in time. You're not going to meditate yourself out of the meditator. You're not. I don't believe so. You're not going to do yourself out of the doer. You're not going to feel yourself out of the feeler. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I just came across you last night actually on YouTube by chance, so I don't know if what
By chance.
yeah. But so as you were saying, speaking, I'm recognising the truth of it, and then I can see as the mind comes in and wants to try and understand it.
Yeah.
And so then it does the jumping back and trying to sort of like, I've got to understand this. And what you're saying is that actually there is no understanding this. I think that's
Yes.
what you're saying. It's just the seeing,
Yes.
and so this is just through the repetition of hearing it,
Yes.
and then suddenly more and more it clicks. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is-
Exactly.
oh, okay. Yeah.
It's already known, and it plays out in time. You get to know it. It's the truth. But when, let's say, it really dawns on you, it will inform that it's always been that way. So that even though it looked like you did all this stuff to get there, quote, when you get there, it tells you it's always been that way, so it just negated all the stuff you ever did. Yeah, see? Yeah, it's a trip. Yeah.
So the moment I try and think, what has Paul just said, I might as well stop, because I've lost it. It's my mind stepping in to try and understand.
But you never lost it, see? But that's what it has you to believe.
Yeah, so that's why I should stop the mind at that point and just stop.
No, just see it. Doesn't have to stop. If you see it, you'll start losing interest in it, and that will promote a stopping. But you trying to stop it is it. Yeah? It's like the statement in an old Zen thing called faith mind. It says, you can't use stillness, you can't use activity to produce stillness. That would be activity. That's the little Chinese thumb torture. You just get stuck in with that. Yeah? I'm going to stop the thoughts. That's a thought. There's a thought that says, I'm going to stop the thought. Yeah, yeah.
Paul,
Yeah.
when there's an identification with thought and it's seen, sometimes it doesn't bring you relief from the identification. So here I am seeing the identification, but it seems to carry on.
Oh, the identification will carry on.
But then in the seeing, I feel that there should be then, in the realization
For you.
of what I'm not.
Yeah, you see that there's the you that's looking for the results. Yeah. It's going to get disappointed.
So
Totally.
identification's always going to
It's
be
going to
there.
get disappointed, and then you'll get so disappointed you'll lose interest in it, and that'll be really, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, the interest has been going on quite a while though.
But all the while it's been going on has been now. Yeah. What happens, let's say something hits you, yeah? It negates the whole thing about time, and you waited a long time and you missed a lot of shit. It just negates all those fairy tales, really. It's not good or bad, but don't wait for that which is waiting to get it. It's not gonna happen. Yeah?
Yeah, I know I can't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that, but sometimes there is a seeing that clearly, sometimes there's an understanding that clicks in, and then whatever it was is gone, it's finished because it's been understood and not to be so. But then other times I observe behaviour which I can see is clearly,
Who observes the behavior?
well, there's an observing
Yeah.
of behaviour which is clearly a foreign instalment,
Yeah.
but it seems to roll on still. And
Of course it does, yeah. Seeing doesn't make it stop, it just, you get to see it. What happens, what stops is how it's being used. You know what I mean? Let's say if the pumping of the blood was misdirected and you used it like a hose on somebody, yeah? That's gonna stop, yeah? But the pumping of the blood's still gonna go on. The act of being identified as self is gonna keep happening. That's the mental process, yeah? That's its whole GPS. That doesn't change. Maybe it does, but it's not necessary. You just see it's not you, and then there's a loss of interest in it. Yeah. Sometimes quickly, sometimes way too slowly. Yeah. But again, let's say you arrive there, it's gonna be like it's always been that way, so all of this will be dismissed.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the action figures has its say here. This idea of trying to convince the action figure it doesn't have free will is insane. Yeah, it's like trying to change the source code of a program. Yeah, especially by the program. It doesn't work. Yeah, and even Ramana says if there's a sense of individuality, which there is, there's free will, seemingly. So just do the next right thing. Yeah, all that stuff. I think a lot of times we're trying to convince that can't be convinced. It's been programmed already to be the ride in the dream, the dreaming, yeah? Let it do its thing. But it doesn't mean it's you, yeah? Like the back door is really the front door, yeah? Yeah. And if you need relief, do something to get relief. Like this, whatever, get a massage, stuff like that. A lot of people, I remember when I first got sober, I'd go into these like existential experiences, like fucking unbelievable. It's like tripping everything, and all I needed was a bologna sandwich. I didn't have enough sugar, and I was calling it like a spiritual fucking epiphany. I just needed to eat some food, you know? You may not change at all, ever. It's fine, and yet it's okay, which is unbelievable. You know how this whole action figures life since about 6 was based on okayness. Completely. You know, there was an urge to escape, to get out of it as it. And it used fantasy books, science fiction, used sports, it used surfing, it used spirituality, it used drugs, and it wanted to, it fell under that statement in recovery, which is self can't get out of self. When that dawned on me, it explained most of my life. That one sentence, everything that I had been doing, not me, but all the doing, and the theme of all the doing was captured by that statement. The whole, from about 6 to about 40 something years, everything was explained like in a nanosecond. That shoe fit and it's never come off. Self can't get out of self. So of course, like if we came here and we had a 3-day intensive, and part of it was chanting, we're not a body. The only thing that chants it's not a body is a body. The only thing that wants to get out of the body is the body. The spirit doesn't give a shit. It doesn't want to escape the mortal coil. None of that. It's us. We want to get the relief. But it's from this, not for this.
Paul,
Yeah.
I just have a really strong memory of that exact feeling. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with the Beatles. I was about 6 or something. I asked my sister to make me a Paul McCartney beard. I thought, beard, even though Paul McCartney. And I remember being really upset after wearing it for Christmas that I wasn't Paul McCartney. I just couldn't. I just really thought I could be Paul McCartney. And the upset was, I was just beside myself. I couldn't not be this.
Yeah.
And it just reminded me of that.
Should end on that note. I wanted to be Chinese. I did Tai Chi, everything like that. But I looked like an Irish kid from New York. I saw Chinese, maybe a little more.
And now I'm glad I didn't become Paul McCartney. I don't like him very much.
You look more like Eric Clapton.
Uh-oh. A new one started. That's what happens. When you get over to Paul McCartney, then the Eric Clapton. And then the next one get this. That's what happens. It's like, it's just pure, and spiritual seeking is addictive. Yeah. But then see what's trippy at these meetings, there are no interventions. My feeling is really, I would like them to have a committee that would review everyone's retreat applications. And so if someone's been on 30 retreats, they should say no, like the soup Nazi, no retreat for you. I mean, really, some people have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. I had a lady call me, she had spent $1 million. She'd stay up all night listening to videos. I mean, I'm insane. There's no one in AA, at least someone will intervene when you're fucking up seriously. But here, they keep taking your money and everything like that, and on and on and on.
Actually, people have crowdfunding pages as well.
Really?
They have crowdfunding pages, so asking people, look, can you fund my retreat?
Oh, that was Can you fund my spiritual seeking? Yes.
So Paul, do you read anything spiritual you're just not interested
No. No, what happened with me really is like when I was put in this seat assignment, and of course I figured I should try to live up to it, yeah, and get better, really. And then I would try to set on a course, but something made it very clear to me, it doesn't want me to get better. It doesn't. So now I read New York Yankee blogs and do the very mundane stuff. Yeah, if I would, no, it's not the seat assignment, you know. So, but I have nothing against it. But the things I use is stuff that triggered a lot of avalanches in my life. The Course in Miracles statements, Huang Po is my favorite, Ramana Maharshi, Nisargadatta. Nisargadatta is usually so complete you can't really riff on what he says. You know what I mean? He doesn't leave much room for riffing in a sense, because you just say, read the book, it's better than what I can say about it. But the others tend to give you a little bit, and then you can riff on it and let the mind go and see what happens. So those things, when I heard them, they produce the same avalanche now when I share them. They're very sense-felt for me. Like you and I give everything all the meaning it has. It's a very powerful perceptual fact. And Huang Po, with the whatever can be perceived cannot be perceiving. I mean, would there be a day 2 of a retreat based on that? No, it would just be like 10 minutes. Drop in, because what can you do with that other than entertain it? You've just been negated completely as the body in a sense. So, or like you can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha, can't use mind to seek mind, you can't use light to seek light. You know, never want to put periods on any of those. Yeah, they just flood over you. They'll flood you. And the mind, when it hears something that rivals it, yeah, when that thing, like if there's a realization in mind, it's not the mind realizing. If there's a realization in mind, one of the things that, for me, it's that realization like almost sends out like a sonar. And so the realization happens and it goes, and it never hits anything. And you get a sense of the infinite, you know, the hugeness of mind, you know? It just goes boom, 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 and you never hear the stone in the well. It just goes on and on and on and on and on. So that to me is what it's all about, is what it intimates. You hear these things, or hopefully with this message, it intimates before thinking, you know? Of course the thinking is going to come and try to neuter it, but you hear it before the thinking, and that's entertaining there. It's just possibility. All what's happening with us a lot of times, we've got the possibilities of, let's say, being okay have been distorted into I will be okay and I was okay. The possibilities have been stretched into time and turned into something fucking that they're not, yeah? But prior, mind needs quite a little to go a long way. Yeah? If it gets a little thing that goes in there, let it do its thing, you know? Just, you don't have to throw another log on the fire. You don't have to read the next page. You don't have to see another person. Just entertain it and see how it goes. And if it starts translating it, you're gonna sooner or later be your own authority somewhere, yeah? So then you've recognized something, it's taken hold, and there's no debate about it. It's done, you know? Like this, I've never looked for another answer. It's been many, many years now. Not because I got weaned off of answers, that was a byproduct. Something was revealed that was, without it being revealed, was what was producing all the need for answers. Once it was revealed, there was no need for any more answers, yeah? I have tons of questions about other things, but not about what I am, you know? You're being it non-stop. There's no point where you can start to be it. And it doesn't need to be remembered because it can't be forgotten. And you don't return to it because you never left. And you don't arrive at it because you've never moved from it. Yeah? It's because of all the magic with time and all this, you don't see it. Yeah? And it's by the looking for it that you're blind to it. Really. Your own looking causes a blindness because the looking has been commandeered. It's being used to reinforce shit. It's called self-centeredness. That form of looking is blind to what's seen. If you get the flavor of it and it starts making sense, a lot gets revealed. You know? You can see it, yeah? You can see the little click. The freedom is prior to the bondage. That flavor is throughout it, yeah? It's not of time. The flavor of the immediacy is in these statements. Once you get that sense, then you won't be looking for what's looking. You'll be having a sense of being that which is looking, yeah? Instead of having that commandeered to make up a manufacture of false presence, having a sense of being you, you'll have that sense that's before the sense of being you. And that will be your new starting point. And then the horse will be in front of the cart, and things that made no sense to you will make sense, yeah? You won't be spending any time looking for what can't be found. And you'll lose all interest in it. Yeah? And your interest will be enriching your day. Yeah? Instead of being used to enslave you in a past or a future day. Yeah. That's that, eh? No?
Well, just quickly, so for instance, what you were saying is that the freedom is prior to the person, to the self. For instance, when I saw you out there, you said, I could see that.
I saw you, yeah.
Yeah, and then you said, okay, look, I could see, that guy was going to end up here. So to me, the self sort of creates this whole sort of idea that, look, Paul sort of mentioned me, etc., etc. Look, he sort of picked me out, etc., etc. So it kind of creates this idea that, okay, look, it's me who's doing the looking, it's all about me.
Yeah.
But then now, after a while, I've sort of started to see that, the seeing, the hearing, everything is already prior. So the awareness is already prior. And the awareness of whatever was going on in that corridor was already there. It was only when you said that thought comes in and says, okay, look, he's talking about me. And then it kind of gives the idea that, look, that thought or that person is the only thing that is there at that moment. But then, so thought sort of carried on this for about an hour while you were talking. Yeah. So it carried on this thing. Okay, look, yeah, Paul sort of picked me out, etc., etc. Then I started to sort of see that. Okay, look, the seeing, the awareness, it was actually prior, and then it kind of starts to drop it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. See, the narration goes on. But it goes on much more smoothly if you're not the narrator, in my view, or the object of the narration. That's all. Nothing has to change for everything to change. Really. Yeah. See, I do shit now. Memories are a way of convincing yourself you were there in a lot of ways. Yeah. After a while, memories drop off the ledge after every day, yeah? Like the Etch-a-Sketch just gets shook up and then new lines happen the next day. And you can see all this movement and all the getting close and far is happening on the surface of what you are. It's like a movie screen. Like who claps for the screen at the movies? Yet, the screen never, probably if you open a movie theater, you'd only buy one screen, the whole history of your movie theater, right? You'd have 800,000 movies, but one screen. That's what it's like, yeah? There's a sense, while everything's coming and going, of that which isn't coming and going. That's how it gets a sense of itself, by seeing what it's not, yeah? It sees what it's not. It sees that it's not coming and going. Jesus says it as a beautiful statement of negation. He says, you're in this world, but you're not of this world. Yeah? So you're in this world, all this going on, yet you're not of it. Yeah? And in recovery, we talk about please lead me not to the bondage to self, but the bondage of self. The bondage of self is an activity. If it was to self, this would be self and this would be me. I could be bound to it. But there's no thing to be bound to. It's bondage of. In other words, you're bound with the object of self. We're engaged in the bonding to this idea of self. I'll do one more thing, because somebody told me about a comment, and very bad comment, supposedly very bad, on my website. But he talks about this thing in which hopefully he's listening, and I'll do this because of the brownie camera. Yeah? So some of you have heard me. So there's a brownie camera, and you know them in America. They were like $10, little box, and then they'd have a plastic lens, and you basically pointed and hoped, because you couldn't really see. It was like tinted, it's like $10. All right, so here's this brownie camera, and then there's this beautiful, incredible 360-degree high definition super camera. And this super camera has like moving tripod, let's say. And it sees this brownie camera, and it stops and it looks through the brownie camera. And as it's looking through the brownie camera, it forgets that it's the large camera. And it starts taking itself to be the brownie camera. Now it notices that it's not getting too many good pictures or everything. What does it do? It goes and buys like $8,000 Nike lenses and tries to put it on the plastic lens, but it doesn't matter what comes after if the plastic lens is before. You're going to get the same shitty picture, yeah? Because this precedes the other lenses. So the more you buy, the more you try to get it advanced, it's still a freaking brownie camera. Now, what would you do in this situation? Would you try to talk to the large camera and keep telling it it's a large camera while it's hearing it from being the brownie? Or would you just start describing the brownie and so that it would recognize it's the brownie, and then give it the little wackaroo, and you may not be that. And suddenly it entertains a possibility, not to because now its possibility of being free is as a brownie. And it's thinking these lenses are going to do it, and this lens and that lens. But now it entertains the possibility, I'm not the brownie camera. What happens? It doesn't tear, it does that. It realizes by seeing it's not the brownie camera what it is, which it's always been. It never became the brownie camera. It was these incredible lenses looking through this plastic lens, and by that, therefore, no matter what you did after, wasn't going to change. But by seeing what was before, by realizing it's not the brownie camera, yeah? It just moves away. It sees the brownie. It may even still be looking through the brownie, but it's very clear. All right, I'm in the brownie, but I'm not of the brownie. You see? If that which is after seems to be the problem, but it implies to be before, all you can try to do is add shit onto it to try to make it better. Just like there's a famous book in recovery called A New Pair of Glasses. So, all right, so you've got a distorted pair of glasses, and then AA comes, and now it's a new pair of glasses to try to correct the distortion of the original glasses. But then you need to get another Non Duality or Course in Miracles, put it on the AA, this and that. But what would happen if you actually felt what you call your eyes, which is the original pair, and see they were glasses? What possibility would arise? I can take them off. So basically, instead of wearing all these corrective things to try to change the distortion of the first glasses, see that they're glasses. You've been calling them your eyes, and therefore the possibility of taking them off isn't available. You see them as glasses, what possibility arises? I can take them off. That's the flavor of it. That's the whole flavor of the message, at least in my sense of it, yeah? Just get the flavor. You may be looking through the brownie, but you're not the brownie. But you can't say, I'm not the brownie as the brownie. That's mental fucking denial. Doesn't work. You'll be more, like, if you don't want to feel like a fraud, you'll feel like one thousands of times. See, that logic doesn't work. It's a different type of denial, a clear denial. Yeah? You see the brownie from the bigger camera. And then I'm not that. You don't keep saying I'm not that as the brownie. You see the brownie from the bigger camera. And the denial is negating. You negate the identification or being the brownie, and in that you get a sense of what you have always been, what you always will be. It's not a new thing that was acquired. It's something that's always been available at all times, but not to the brownie. That should have done it. I mean, really. Yeah? Yeah. I mean, you can untwist the twister. That's all. That's the best thing. To me. So, I never talk about what is. I always talk about what ain't. Where is a non-duality meeting? Tell me. And who can attend? Nobody. All the meetings are about duality. You're attempting to talk to non-duality about duality, so non-duality goes, hey, I'm not duality. Yeah? It would be incredibly impossible for duality to become non-duality. It's never, the two-ness isn't gonna, it's too fucking big to fit into oneness. Yeah? No, but you see the duality from the non-duality. Stop looking for the non-duality from the duality. Look at the duality from the non-duality. That has value. That's it for today, eh? Yeah.
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 Thank you.